Hello and welcome back to Hey, Have You Seen That Film? With today's film listing, I'm very excited to be talking about the Lethal Weapon franchise. Even got my shirt on for it because we're talking about the boys. Lethal Weapon is my favorite film franchise. I hesitate there. That and Mission Impossible are my two favorites, and I love them. I love the entire franchise. There's not a film in either one of those series that I do not like. But Lethal Weapon might just edge out Mission Impossible just a little bit more. Today I wanted to go through my ranking of the franchise and give reasons as to why I picked, obviously. I made some mental notes of things that I want to, not mental, I actually physically wrote down notes of things that I wanted to make sure I discussed when talking about the Lethal Weapon franchise. Lethal Weapon started in 1987. It was directed by Richard Donner, and it starred Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. And it went on to span 3 sequels, and currently there are talks, and the actors and the director are supposedly saying, yes, there will be a Lethal Weapon 5. But as of now, we only have 4 films, and we're going to go ahead and get started on talking about where I rank each film. So coming in, well, before I even get started, I love each one of these films in the franchise. There's not one that I dislike, and ranking this franchise was one of the hardest things I did. But I had to write down notes as to why I liked each one, and really, they move around all the time. So as of now, this is the ranking I gave it, but upon rewatching Lethal Weapon, they could change again. I watched Lethal Weapon at least the entire franchise at least once a month in my senior year of high school, and even my junior year. I loved this series, really, and I have a weird thing. I have to watch them in order. I have to go 1 through 4. But anyways, let's get started. Coming in at number 4, I put Lethal Weapon 4. I think what's really good about Lethal Weapon 4 is, for one, the villain, Jet Li. He's got a presence about him that he's just evil. He's just bad. And the fight between him and Mel and Danny, or Riggs and Murtaugh, is phenomenal. It's an amazing fight scene. It was well worth, if you saw it in theaters when it came out, it was well worth the ticket. It was awesome. I loved that whole. It was just cool. Jet Li. It was a great introduction. I think, it was Jet Li's first American film, I'm pretty sure. So it was a great introduction to Americans of Jet Li and his talent. I also like in this movie the car chase on the freeway. It's exciting, but there's one thing I love about the car chase, and that is when Riggs is being dragged behind like a mobile home, and he's on a table, and the bad guys are speeding up to come ram right into him and kill him, and Murtaugh in the other car comes swerving in and slams right into him, and what he says, it gets me so, I love it. He goes, "Get away from my boy." And I love it because in that moment for me, it just shows how much love the two main characters have for each other, and so that's one of my favorite scenes. And I love that in the 4th film, Riggs comes full circle. That's one of my favorite things about this franchise is the character development, especially of Riggs. You see him in the first one be completely crazy, and the last one he's more calmed down. He's still got that edge on him every once in a while, but he comes full circle. He's healed, and he's found a family within Murtaugh, and creating his own family, and it's a sweet Riggs' story is a great character development. I really enjoy watching it. Coming in at number 3, and this might shock people, is Lethal Weapon, the first one. The first one is great. Out of the 4, it is the darkest and it's the most serious. What I think is so great about it is the chemistry between Riggs and Murtaugh. The reason people kept paying to see these movies is because we loved seeing Riggs and Murtaugh together. And that is what this film did. It established these two characters that went on to become, in my opinion, the greatest friendship in film history. Okay, there might be some other good ones out there, but it's one of the best. I think you just, throughout all the films, you continue to see them develop, but this is where it all started. And I think that each one brought a great performance to their characters. In fact, this is 2 fun facts here. Mel Gibson's performance as Riggs, there's a scene where he's about to commit suicide because he's done. His wife was killed in a car accident. He's alone and he's tired of living. And there's a scene where he's about to kill himself, and it's really intense, and he's just in tears, and he doesn't go through with it, obviously. But that scene is what, I don't know who directed it, but in the 1990, there was a film version of Hamlet released with Mel Gibson, and his performance as Riggs is what the director saw and said, I want Mel Gibson to play Hamlet. The other fun fact is, when initially reading the script for Lethal Weapon, Richard Donner had another white male lead in mind for Murtaugh, and it was somebody who suggested that Murtaugh was black, and it was kind of like, oh, it never actually specified his race. And then they got Danny Glover, and obviously we're all super happy about that. Coming in at number 2, I put Lethal Weapon 2. I love the second one. I love the introduction of Leo Getz. Joe Pesci was perfect for that part. I know people may find him kind of annoying, but I think that might be part of his character, because even Riggs and Murtaugh find him super annoying, yet they keep him around because he continues to show up in the franchise. But I loved that they brought us Leo. I loved how we got more into Riggs' character. We learn more about his wife's death and the night he died. I love the moment he shares with Murtaugh's wife as she's talking to him about, hey, she found some gold pen in the laundry because she does Riggs' laundry now. And Trish says, hey, I had this gold pen. And Riggs tells her the whole story of how what happened the night his wife died. And it's this great bonding moment between the two of them. And what I like about this film, especially the second one with Riggs' character, is you see that already from the first to the second one, he's not as suicidal as he once was, but Riggs is still crazy. You know, when the action breaks loose, he doesn't care, and that's what's cool about him. But I love that his character has become more normal, and that's because he's found a family, a reason to keep living, which is so great. And finally, I love the toilet bomb scene. It's funny, but I love the moment between Riggs and Murtaugh where they're, do we go on 3 or do we go 1, 2, 3, then go? And then before Riggs pulls him off the toilet, Murtaugh just looks at him and he goes, hey, Riggs, and Riggs goes, I know. And then he's like, you're not going to die. And it's a sweet emotional moment. So coming in at number 1 is Lethal Weapon 3, which actually might really shock people. But I have some good reasons, in my opinion, for putting that at number 1. I've always loved the third one. I think it's funny. I love the action in it. But here are 3 reasons as to why I really like this one. My first reason, or one of the reasons, is we get to see Murtaugh play more of the crazy character in this one. He doesn't go to the extreme as Riggs, but after shooting his son's friend and killing him, he gets this vengeance. I want to get the guys who gave this kid a gun and get him back, and he starts going a little crazy. So it's cool to see that Murtaugh is the one in this one who's got a little more of an edge to him. My second reason is Lorna Cole. I love Lorna Cole. I think she's a fabulous match for Riggs. The fact that she likes Three Stooges. Riggs loves Three Stooges. The scene where they're comparing scars, I have always found it funny, and how she's knows kung fu and all that. Like her and Riggs were meant for each other, and I think she's a good, as I said, match for Riggs, and she helps him still further his development, which I appreciate and like. And my final reason, this is the main reason I put Lethal Weapon 3 at the top spot, is the boat scene. To give a little bit of a background to Lethal Weapon 3, if you haven't seen it, that's when Murtaugh is going to retire from the force. He's not going to be a detective anymore, and that's going to leave Riggs alone. And this is kind of their last case together. And after shooting Nick's friend, Murtaugh doesn't go home for a few days, and Rianne goes and tells Riggs this. Rianne is Murtaugh's daughter. And so Riggs goes out to the family boat and finds Murtaugh there drunk. And he's trying to calm him down and help him realize it's not his fault. And Murtaugh starts telling him, you just don't get it. It didn't happen to you. It happened to me. And, you don't care. Nothing phases you. And then Riggs freaks out at him. And it makes me emotional. I love it. And Riggs starts yelling at him. He's telling him he's selfish. And he says, he tells him, when you retire, you're not just retiring you, you're retiring us. And he goes on to say that I got 3 beautiful kids. I love them, and they're yours. Trish does my laundry. He's listing all these reasons as to why Murtaugh retiring is actually a bigger thing than it is, and how Riggs doesn't know what he's going to do without him. And it really shows the friendship and love that these two have for each other. It shows the reason that we've continued to watch these two over and over again, because we love them and we love their friendship. And that scene makes the third one for me. I think it's a sweet scene, it's a touching scene, and it's why I think Lethal Weapon 3 is the best one at the moment. It could change. So that's my personal ranking of the Lethal Weapon franchise. I'd love to hear your ranking of the franchise and hear your thoughts on the franchise in general. Thanks for watching today. If you haven't seen Lethal Weapon yet, I highly recommend it. It stars Mel Gibson and Danny Glover in the entire series, and I personally recommend this to anybody. They are ours. There's language, and I skip over a couple of the scenes in the first two, but they're great films, so check them out.